And today, with this new system of capital adequacy, which isn't really adequacy at all, it should be capital inadequacy, they are lending the same money 20 times and collecting interest on it each time. Now that is just legalized fraud. And the fact that a tiny minority of rich people can get away with it, I think, is a disgrace. So I've been saying we have to reduce that ratio of 20 to 1 to, say, 3 to 1, and reduce the amount of the proportion of money that banks create from nearly a monopoly to, I'm suggesting, 2/3, so that governments who own the patent on behalf of the people can print 1/3 of the money, 34% is the figure that I use in the book, and use that to balance their budgets and pay for health care and pay for the transition from an oil economy to something that would save the world from global warming, and do other things that are essential, you know, like providing basic food and shelter for people all over the world and giving the poor people a bit of a break. So this is what's got to happen, and I hope it happens sooner rather than later, because if it doesn't, then what is going to happen is that we'll go for another 5 or 10 or 15 years and have another meltdown. And a few more million people will lose their jobs and their houses and their businesses. And the thing goes on until somebody really does something about it. And it's going to take a lot of guts to stand up to the banking industry, because they're a tough bunch and they would spend billions to keep this from happening. But at the same time, it would be the greatest service to mankind that any leader or group of leaders could do. And I just hope and pray that they will get at it, try and understand how the system works, which very few people do, but which you can learn in a few hours, and then make the change and give the world a break.
You have said in the beginning of the book that we are hell-bent on destruction, and you have also delineated a lot of the crisis in the planet, including the UFO cover-up and the economic problem and the spiritual problem that we do not accept each other and are still warring about this. If you were to give a message to the young people, a legacy that you wanted to leave, something that would help them change the status quo and enter this new world as you and I look at it, what would be your advice on a very basic level?
My advice to the young people of the world would be, it has to start with individuals. I used to describe this sort of thing like a beach. If the majority of the grains of sand on the beach are clean, it will look beautiful, golden, and be very hospitable. If the majority are covered with oil slick, dirty, or translated into the wider problem, evil, or uncaring or self-centered, then you have a dirty beach, which is very unattractive. And that is much of what's going on in the world today. We have very little personal integrity. Every time you pick up a paper, somebody's ripping off somebody. The government officials are ripping off the people, or some people are trying to rip off the government by not paying their taxes or something, to show that they're going in the opposite way to what we have to go. But this has to start with individual people, and it has to come from the bottom up, not from the top down, although I must say that, you know, good leadership is very important, and if you can get somebody with high moral and ethical standards at the top, this will rub off on some of the younger people. But basically, the young people have to change the world one at a time, individually, and try to make their motto to leave the world in a little better place than when they found it. And if everyone does that, they'll plant a tree or two, or pick up a can or two, or do whatever is necessary, donate $1 or $2 for somebody else that's in worse situation than they are. And then, if enough people do that, they will then put the political pressure on the leaders to make the macro changes. that are essential to change the monetary system and to stop global warming and to do the other things that have to be done to, in effect, save the world.